In a world where businesses everywhere are trying to make print-on-demand sales, one podcast goes above and beyond every week to bring the most POD-specific information there is, all to help save the day, every day. Don't succumb to the enemies of your print-on-demand business. Sign up today for the Print On Demand Cast VIP email at printondemandcast.com/VIP. This time, it's for real.
Welcome back to the Print On Demand Cast. On today's episode, we talk about royalty-based POD versus seller of record POD. Let's get into it.
Radical! Welcome to this week's episode of the Print On Demand Cast. Each week, join the gnarly Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print-on-demand industry and equip you with the totally tubular tools, advice, and strategies you need to achieve success, and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now on to this week's Totally Tubular show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Print On Demand Cast. Good to be back with you this week. Things are moving and shaking and schedules are crazy, which is why I was not with you last week. However, Travis was, and Travis is also here again this week joining us for this episode. Travis, welcome back to Colorado. You've had a couple states that you've been visiting over the last handful of weeks, but you also went to the Printing United Expo recap. Not recap, that's in the notes. I'm reading literally had a complete certain older politician moment where I just read the teleprompter. You went to Printing United Expo in Vegas. How was that? Was Las Vegas kind to you this time around?
Yeah, Las Vegas was kind to me. I had a really good time. The more I go to these shows, the more people I'm relating to and meeting. And so I had several friends that were actually at the show. I had so many friends that were at the show. I had plans to do different things and I didn't get to do all of them because I just, there were several people. Like I know Ken Reel was at the show, who's been on our show or been on the podcast in the past. Didn't even see him. Didn't have an opportunity to even say hi on the show floor. But it is a massive show. It's just so big. I had a lot of great conversations. I was able to record a podcast with Cole Lundstrom on the show floor, and it's an audio only, but it'll release, I don't know, probably in the next month or so. But it's a different feel. A, you're live, but B, you're like right in the middle of all of these people walking around and all of these machines and all of this stuff. And it was very lively as a result, I think, so got to speak on a print on demand panel with two other people and, had a good time connecting with Cassie from The Apparelist, who I've written for their magazine before. The Apparelist is the print, it's the publication arm of Printing United. And so Cassie's, works for The Apparelist, and she's the one who got me on the panel. She kind of moderated the panel, but then, had good conversation with her. I just can't say enough about going to these trade shows. I mean, it's, my goodness, so many cool things. Saw some new, there's a brother has created like a camera thing that goes above their, like a DTG machine. And then you can print on top of like embroidered patches, basically. Wow. So you have the embroidery already in it, and some of it's not embroidered and some of it is. And then, and then you put it down, and then the camera sees exactly where it's laying out on the platen. And, even if you have one, stuck here and one stuck here and one stuck here, it lines them all up, and then it prints them perfectly. And then it looks like an embroidered patch, and it's really, really cool. So, I mean, there's always something new. DTF continues to dominate. There's so many people doing direct to film transfers and selling direct to film machines. And it's quite a sight to behold. Next year, it's going to be in Orlando. And if you have an opportunity, if you're in Florida area and you want to, or on the East Coast anywhere really, and want to have a nice, October, I guess, or I guess September, I think is when it is. You should make plans to go check it out. I know we always talk about the Impression Show in Long Beach, which is great. This one's bigger. It has more stuff, has bigger stuff, but it's just different. But man, what an experience. It's been a minute since I've been to one, and I did not come away sad or disappointed.
Yeah, did not disappoint. Yeah, that's awesome. The last one I went to, I think it was with you there in Vegas. And it's always a good time. Vegas is always a good time. I know you went and saw the Sphere, which looks pretty incredible. Lots of crazy stuff happening with that venue. Interested to see what happens in the near future with that venue and who else will be there. UFC was just there. I know WWE will be there since UFC and WWE are owned by the same company. So lots of interesting things will be happening here in the future. Another exciting thing that's going to be happening this week, tomorrow, as we're recording this, actually, on the 17th, the POD Foundations Challenge. Now, it's too late to sign up for this one, but there will be another one in the future for sure. Travis, some great response so far for this kind of maiden voyage of something that we've talked about doing or you've talked about doing for a very long time.
Yeah, we've I'm just refreshing my little app here, but so far 67 people have registered to attend. I don't know that all of them will attend live because we're going to give away the videos, but that's pretty awesome response, and makes me glad I did it. Well, glad I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm still working. I'm still working like a ton on this thing. And, we still got to do a podcast, got to get all that stuff out, as well as, finish up some stuff for the challenge that starts tomorrow. By the time you guys hear this, if you download it Wednesday, it'll already be, half over. But really looking forward to getting into some of that stuff and helping people kind of get more organized in their print on demand business.
That's awesome. Fantastic. And I was also in Alabama. Well, you were in Las Vegas. I was in Alabama. My mom and my oldest sister just moved there from Wyoming, left the house that my mom's lived in since I was 6 years old. Very insane chapter of life, getting them all moved. And then 2 days into it, my mom tripped and fell and hit the metal edging in my sister's front lawn and cut her eyebrow open, and it was a whole thing. So when I saw my mom, it looked like she had just went 3 rounds in UFC octagon. But she's fine. Everything's good. No concussion. Just another exciting adventure that she gets to walk through, as well as being there. Alabama was awesome. Really rainy. Exactly. Very rainy. Because of the hurricane there in Louisiana, but the last day able to go to the beach house and posted, if you follow me on social media, posted some photos of the sunset there, which Travis then said was AI generated, but it looks like it. It's just an iPhone and some Lightroom editing. So I'm excited to see what else. I just got the 16. It's on the way. So I'm excited to see what the camera does on the iPhone 16. Should be fun.
Oh, wow. That's pretty special. We should do a whole show on the iPhone 16 and all the new features that have come out. Wait, never mind.
Just wait for Apple Intelligence, because then it's going to get crazy once that hits. I'll probably have a lot to say about that. So, but with that being said, we're going to move on to everyone's favorite segment, this week's Weekly Dad Joke.
Time for the Weekly Dad Joke.
All right, Travis, last night I had some friends over for dinner, and, poured some adult beverages and thought, I'd try and mix some Mexican alcohol with 20th century American literature last night, because we were talking about favorite books and movies, what have you. So I tried to mix both of them, and at the end of the night, I just ended up with Tequila Mockingbird. That's this week's weekly dad joke. Enjoy it, use it, share it with all of your friends.
I like it.
See how much they groan at that joke. So, all right,
Go
ahead.
I just gonna say a little peek behind the curtain here. Usually we put that on our notes, the joke, and this week we didn't, and so it was like literally last week's joke. And so when you said dad joke, I was like looking around, and then I found my little calendar, and I was like ready to go with a terrible dad joke. But you knew what you were doing, man. You had it all under control.
Ready, locked, and loaded.
Nice
and
work.
With that, we're going to go straight into this week's point of interest.
Point of interest.
All right, Travis, you've got this week's point of interest ready for us. What are we talking about for this week's POI?
Yeah, so it's a website. I always like to find new, cool print-on-demand companies, that can do really cool things. And so this week I bring to you Subliminator. Dun, 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 dun. And there we go. Subliminator is a really cool all over sublimation print-on-demand company. So they actually do cut and sew. If you're not familiar with that term, basically think of like a bicycle guy, on his 10-speed driving down the road, and he's got that really bright shirt with all the ads and all that stuff on his shirt. That started as a white polyester garment, and then it was sublimated and then sewn together to create that. And so that's pretty much all that Subliminator does. They do all sublimation. And so, and they also really have this cool website. So it says first choose your item, and then it does all of these little movements as you scroll. And then it says next, customize your design. So you can do a pattern or whatever you want. And it's doing all of this by itself. Boom, it's putting it on the hoodie. And then define your product. You can say the size, the price, the size, blah, blah, blah. You could sell it, or you can just keep it for yourself. And then you've got this really cool product that you've already made. So I wanted to kind of show you, if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see, this is kind of behind the scenes. I've just signed up for the free account. You can get Subliminator Pro, and I'm not sure exactly how much that is, but it lowers your cost per garment. But so they have things like a zipper cloak, all over print. The AOP stands for all over print. And this thing is anywhere from $71 to $101. But all of these prices, the interesting thing, you look at this and you're like, oh my gosh, for a hoodie, it's $50, just to get the hoodie. But all of these prices include shipping. So it's shipped to the US, all inclusive. So if you want to charge extra shipping, that's all going in your pocket. But let's just look at like a men's t-shirt, because it's not, all over printing is not cheap to do. And so you can charge a lot for it. I probably would, if I was going to do this and really jump in, I probably would end up getting the Subliminator Pro just to lower my cost of goods. But you can see just a regular t-shirt from, extra small to 4XL, which extra small is going to be, extra small through XL is going to be the 24.75 for USA. It looks like they don't even charge you extra for the high. The 24.75 is the USA, UK, Germany, Europe, Australia, New Zealand price. And then Canada is 30.25. And then USA remote areas is 34.65. But if you're only selling in the US, you're going to get it for 24.75 shipped to your customer, which is kind of cool. And the interesting thing about this, I'll just show this also real quick. They have all these design templates. And when you download these, you're going to get 3 different templates. You're going to get your front side and your neck rib, which is the neck is going to go around that. Then you're also going to get a back side, and you're going to, maybe your front side has you have a pattern over everything. like that hoodie we were just looking at. You have a pattern over everything and then a design in the front. But you just have the pattern on the back. And then you're also going to get a left and right sleeve. And again, you can put these patterns, and they have all of this, all of this kind of tutorials and like information on how to make sure some of that, like, it'll match up. So it doesn't just look like, you cut the triangle in half and it's all jagged or whatever on your shoulder where the sleeve and the front and back connect. They have, they explain how to do all of that. So it's really pretty cool. It's a very cool website, obviously really easy to use, have a lot of different products, from hoodies and t-shirts and joggers and shorts, swimwear. Then they've got, even footwear. You can literally get sublimated high tops.
What?
And sublimated low tops. So if you want some high tops, guys, it's $38.50 shipped to your door, and you can put whatever you want on it. I mean, this might be cool just to like go and design something for yourself,
Totally.
Yeah. Once again, we've given you a point of interest that is going to waste the rest of your day.
Yeah, and maybe whatever excess income you had to spend, because that's pretty cool.
Look at those zip hoodies. I know you want
Gosh.
to put these on your dog.
Yeah. There's two Shih Tzus in the living room that might look pretty dope in a zip-up hoodie.
Oh, they're still selling face masks. Those poor people.
Look at that, $99. That's insane.
I think that's because they decided they were like, no one's going to buy these. So
if you're wearing $100 face mask, we need to. I don't understand.
Oh, look, they have a soccer set, so I could literally totally get an Arsenal kit.
Yeah, you can make a print-on-demand cast kit for yourself.
Oh, that would be really cool. We should do that.
The synthwave would look pretty dope. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's Subliminator. Kind of a cool little fun product that's like not kind of the norm. You don't see a lot of that. But if you've got some unique designs, or if you want to just use your brand and do something completely different, you could do an entire tracksuit, with sublimator.com. So
nice.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep saying Sublimator. It's actually Subliminator. And we'll have that in the show notes.
That's what when I first read it, I was like sublimator.com, but it's Subliminator.
That's right.
It's very sneaky, very subliminally snuck in there. It's Subliminator. So yeah, it'll be in the show notes. And if you have some fun with it, let us know what you create with Subliminator. Oh my God. Subliminator. Why did they have to do that? That's what I don't know. That makes it so much more difficult.
True international effort to pressure.
Anyway, all right, folks, with that. So yeah, be sure to check that out. And like I said, if you make something cool, let us know. Send a picture of you wearing it or what you designed. We want to know. So we're going to move on to this week's main event, royalty-based POD versus seller of record POD.
On a cold, dreary night in September of 2020, Travis Ross and Josiah Cifuentes created the Print on Demand cast. This is the main event.
All right, so let's start with kind of definitions here, Travis, for those listening that might be new or could use a refreshing. Royalty-based POD versus seller record. What are those, and what are the differences between the two, so they know what we're comparing as we continue down this list?
Sure. You probably know what these are, but maybe you hadn't heard these terms before. We've used them on the show for a while, but if you're a newer listener, the royalty-based print on demand is going to be any print on demand that you're actually going to license your designs to an existing website. So Redbubble, Amazon merch on demand, that's another one. So you're actually licensing your art to that platform. Cafe Press, is another one that, kind of the OG, I guess, of print on demand. They've been doing it forever. And so you would upload your art to different products or whatever. And then when they sold, you would end up getting a royalty. So that's the royalty-based print on demand. The seller of record print on demand is pretty much everything else. So think like Etsy or Shopify, so when the product sells, you actually have to get it created. You either do it yourself or you have a vendor. You have to ship it to the customer. If the customer has an issue, they have to do, you have to take the returns back. You have to do the customer service, all of those things. You are the seller of record. It's not, even though you might be selling it on Etsy, you are the seller of record, and it's your business that is getting the payout from Etsy or, Walmart or Shopify or whoever. And it's coming into your business. It's not a royalty. It's actually revenue for your business, specifically top line revenue.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. That's what So some examples here. Like you said, you already mentioned Amazon, merchant on demand, Redbubble, royalty based. A lot of the other big ones we talk about are seller of record, Etsy, Amazon, Walmart, Shopify, eBay, WordPress. But we're looking at revenue, profits, and margins. There's a disparity. You can earn more in one, but it's kind of like ease of use, right? So you'll get paid less if you want the royalty based, because you don't have to do as much. Amazon Merch on Demand, for example, they're going to handle a lot of the customer service requests or issues that you have. They're just selling your art, so you're going to make a smaller margin. Whereas seller record, like Travis just talked about, you're responsible for a lot more, but you can make more as well. You can control those profits a little bit easier in setting those prices of what you want to charge people for your item.
Right. And the other thing is that I was going to say you can't really control how much they're charging you. But I guess that's true in seller of record as well. But I just, the reason I said that is because I got on, back in the day, it was called Merch by Amazon. Yep. And I got on in like 2016 or 2015. I mean, it was like right when it opened up, or pretty soon after it opened up. And t-shirts were really cheap. I can't remember exactly what they were, but they were really cheap. And you could make a decent amount, with a $14 shirt, a 13, you make a few bucks or whatever. Yeah. If you wanted to sell them for $19.99 or whatever, you'd make like, $8 or $9. Right. And so, but since then they've just incrementally raised the price of how much they're taking or how much they're keeping. And, or you could look at it, since it's royalty based, they've lowered the royalty that they're going to pay you if you sell for $19.99, and so, I mean, technically you could make just as much, you just might have to charge a little more. And technically you could spend just as much on those products on a seller of record if you wanted to go with a more expensive supplier, So, I mean, it does kind of, come out in the wash a little bit, but you do have a little bit more flexibility of who you're going to use, to where that can affect your margin, because you can potentially find, you can get a deal potentially with the supplier, or you can switch suppliers if they raise their prices and you find a better one, or better price. So, you have more flexibility, I would say, as for your profit margins.
Yeah. Another thing you have some flexibility on is kind of control and customization. So let's talk about that a little bit. You have more control over the product. We just talked about using more expensive vendor, different brands. Especially if you're wanting to a more kind of a branded store. Everything has a certain feel, type.
Right.
You control the pricing and the customer experience really in your seller of record store. So it's customer experience. Yes, customer service, of course, is a part of that, but also, you get to sell or kind of add some personal touches to that experience for them if you choose to. Maybe not so much on a royalty based, because there's some customization options, but Travis, dig a little bit deeper into that in terms of what the difference is in terms of control and customization for those two platforms.
Sure. For a brand, this is huge. If you're on, for example, you have a very limited number of products to select on Merch by Amazon, and there are literally no customization options. You sell the art that you uploaded. No one can customize it, and you can't customize it any more than the art is. So think about, like, if you're selling on Shopify and you're trying to do a branded product, maybe you want to include a card, with some information about your brand and you're eco-friendly and you've got this mission or whatever, you can do that with certain suppliers. I know Printify allows you to do that. What if you want to do like a custom tag, like in the back, instead of the actual tag, you can rip that off and have it printed, or they'll redo the tag and sew them back on. There's options there that you can have done. If you're doing it yourself, if you're the seller of record that you just don't have with a royalty-based platform. And then the obvious one that I kind of alluded to at the beginning, if you're selling on Etsy, you can allow customers to customize parts of your design, parts of that design. You can't do that with merch or Amazon Merch on Demand or Redbubble or anything, because again, they're just going to sell the product or the art on whatever products you have. So you have a lot more customization options when you're the seller of record. That goes along with, some of the more responsibility that you have, but we're trying to just weigh the pros and the cons for you guys.
Right. Again, we touched on this a couple of times, already, but time and effort required is another thing that there's going to be some disparity between. Royalty based is generally more passive. So it's kind of like, the term that's used sometimes is mailbox money. You just kind of set it and forget it. It's going to sell and you're going to make a certain amount a month. Especially if you Amazon Merch on Demand, if you grow it, and I'm assuming they still do tiers. Again, I had a account when Travis had an account, so it was much different back then. But you grow it, you can kind of get a steady income that's very passive. You don't have to do a whole lot to it or for it. Seller of record is going to be way more hands-on in terms of management in almost every facet of that model. So it's going to require more time of you to manage the store successfully. So Travis, dig in a little. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but what in terms of, royalty-based mailbox money passive is kind of like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But in terms of hands-on management for seller of record, what might that look like for someone that's trying to weigh the difference between the two different possibilities?
I mean, we're talking about a lot of the things as we continue to go. We're going to be talking about like your customer service and, marketing and those types of things, and like the actual scalability of these platforms. There's just a lot more time requirement when you are the seller of record. You've got to find the vendor. You have to answer the customer service emails. You have to deal with the returns. Whereas the royalty based, they are the seller of record. They're just paying you a royalty. So they're dealing with all of that. I guess we'll touch on some of these later, so I won't say all of them, but I'll just say it's the tier structure that Amazon has makes it very difficult to scale. Not only from the way you have to upload the products. Now they have improved a ton where you can put one design on like 50 different products, with one, boom. And then you type out one description and it populates all of them. So they've gone the way of automation, but there's no way to upload that like via a spreadsheet. So it's not quite as scalable as maybe some of the other channels are. I mean, for seller of record, you can't really do that with Etsy. So that's a similar thing. But time and effort required is something that you want to consider when you're doing this. And I think a cat out of the bag in the end, I think you should maybe do both, Amazon Merch on Demand, at least get on their waiting list, at least get denied like 5 times, before you hang them up. I mean, keep applying, keep trying, because that mailbox money is nice. I literally have an account and my wife has an account. We have not touched these accounts in 4 years, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. And I still, every single month and more in November and December, we get between $400 and $500 between the two accounts.
Yeah.
That doesn't suck,
No, not at all.
And we put a lot of work into it at first because we were uploading a lot of products and it wasn't as automated as it is today.
Yeah.
But still, to have that still trickling in like that, had we really, really focused on it and jumped, and kept going with it. I know people that are making $25,000 and more per month doing nothing but Amazon Merch on Demand.
Just
they don't
insane.
care. Yeah, they don't care about seller of record. They'll
No.
take their royalties and their mailbox money and they'll go to the Caribbean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. So you mentioned it too, in terms of hands-on management, customer service responsibilities. Interaction is going to be different. Travis just touched on it, where if you're the seller of record, you have to respond to all of those things. Not only do you have to respond to their complaints, you need to know what your vendor's process is as well. We've talked about this before on the show, where if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, dude, where's my shirt?" or "Hey, there's a misprint here," the correct answer is not, "Well, I mean, Printful is my supplier, and they're the ones that messed up on the order," or the customer's not going to care. You are it. I've told the story a lot of when I worked for Verizon. I didn't work for Verizon corporate. I worked for basically a franchise or an authorized retailer, and there are certain things we couldn't do. But to the public, they don't understand that, and they do not care. And we got the brunt end of all of their frustrations with Verizon. And no matter how many times we explain the difference, they don't care. You're the one that they're working with. You're the one in front of them. So likewise, in this instance, if you're the seller of record, they're not going to care where you get the shirt created. They only know you. They've interacted with you. They gave their money to you. So you then have to have the answers should something go wrong. So you're going to have to do your due diligence and really know the process. Whereas royalty based, they're the ones that are producing it. They're the ones that are finding all those solutions. And so they will handle those interactions. And so that's the difference. You just have to be prepared for that. Don't just think that you can, in terms of customer service, it's not just about answering questions. It's about knowing the process that you're getting into. And again, that goes to other episodes where we talk about finding the right vendor for you and shopping and really courting the right vendor. So you can go back to listen to those as well. Travis, anything else on customer service responsibilities and kind of the difference between the two?
Yeah, I mean, the one, obviously, if you have to have conversations with customers, then you're probably going to spend time creating templates, different, responses and templates to the different questions that you get quite often when you start selling more and more. Whereas obviously in royalty based, you just don't have to do that because they're selling it. So they have to do that, so that's off of your plate. So consider the customer service responsibilities when you're deciding or, as you're thinking through if one is more right for you than the other.
Right. The next thing you want to talk about is marketing and promotion. So Travis, dig in a little bit here and compare kind of the efforts needed, because there's this platform specific promotion, kind of grassroots independent marketing, and there's a difference between the two. So dig into that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, most of the channels that we talked about, both royalty based and seller of record based, a lot of them have like a platform specific promotion. So like in Amazon or Amazon Merch on Demand, you are allowed to do promoted listings. At least I believe you are. And it may be at a certain tier you get access to that. I don't know. I've never done them because I did them before they were allowed. And when it came online, I was like, I don't even care. I'm making my money every month. I'm just, I'm not going to spend more money. I don't want to deal with it. So I never really jumped into that, but I believe you can promote your listings. It's very similar to the Amazon Seller Central side where you actually are the seller of record. You're still selling on Amazon, but not through the merch program. You can promote those listings. You can create listings. Etsy has Etsy ads that you can pay to get better placement. And Walmart has the same type of thing. That's a seller of record program. So they all a lot of them have the, that platform specific promotional advertising baked into the platforms.
Right.
Until you get to like a Shopify, or like a WordPress with WooCommerce or something baked in, you are responsible for the traffic. So when we say independent marketing, we're talking about social media marketing. We're talking about Google ads, trying to get, we're talking about Facebook ads, all of those things that would potentially drive a customer to your website. And without a channel kind of bringing those people that just already know that channel as a place they want to shop.
Yeah.
You're responsible for all the traffic. And so that is kind of a benefit of the royalty base specifically, because again, while you don't have to do much of anything, you're getting all of these eyeballs. And that may be, to your point earlier, why sometimes they give you less on the royalty, because
Right.
they got to pay for all of their advertising, because they are
Right.
doing commercials and all
Yep.
that other stuff to get people in to the store. Same with Redbubble,
Yeah.
same with what did I say earlier? Cafe Press.
Mhm.
They are doing their own promotion, and then to get to the products that they think are going to sell, and then they pay you a royalty. And
Yeah.
sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes you can't control that, and they may never advertise your thing.
Yeah.
And you just can't do anything about that. So there is some benefit to being able to control that, although it's going to cost you money, but you
Yeah.
are the one that's going to choose which product to put in front of people. But you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, like we've talked about, like order of I guess operations, for lack of a better term. But you said earlier, start with both. When it's like, what are you going to do? A passive or a royalty or a seller record? And you can do both. I think our recommendation would be, and what we've said in past episodes, is maybe start with something that has the platform specific promotion for you to advertise on that platform to get traffic to your listing. Because I've shared this story before, but my father-in-law wanted to start another random novelty t-shirt store. And it's like, how in the world are we going to cut through the noise of the other 600 of them that are all vying for attention through independent marketing, through social media, through Google ads? Like, unless you have something that's very specific and very niche where you feel like you could cut through the noise a little quicker, then that might be easier for you. But if it's just another kind of catch-all for interesting designs,
ain't gonna work.
It's gonna be hard for you. You might have better luck just advertising certain listings on an Amazon or Etsy as opposed to trying to go get that mark.
And that's why we talk all the time, when we are talking about branding, we talk about your niche selection and to niche down. And when you found that specific niche, maybe consider niching down a little more.
Yes.
Because what that does is that it may, while it may reduce your total pool of potential customers, that means that the advertising dollars that you spend will go farther, because it doesn't cost as much to reach those people because there's fewer of them. And so there's not as much competition, which drives the price up. So that's another reason you would niche down if you wanted to go the branding route. But yeah, that's multiple episodes worth of stuff we could talk about right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, let's talk about scalability. Travis, talk a little bit about how each platform handles the increase in demand differently, and if is there one where scalability is easier than the other? What does that look like between those two models?
Yeah, I am not on Redbubble, and I'm not on many platforms aside from the ones we always talk about. I'm not on very many royalty-based platforms, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so I just remember, and it might have been Redbubble, I don't remember, but I recently there was this huge outcry from one of the royalty-based platforms. It could have been Spring or Teespring or whatever, but they were talking about how I can't find my products. My products aren't indexing in Google, and they're not there, and they're not showing them. And it turned out that they basically had limited resources, and so they basically stopped showing the not as good ones. They wanted to promote the ones that were selling more, and so that's kind of a danger. If you're not really selling well, or if your store's not doing that good, they could kind of put you in the back room, so to speak, unless you give them money. And so this particular or one of them announced that they were going to start doing tiers and paid tiers. And so if you sold so much, you had to pay this much to be on their site. If you didn't sell that much, you had to pay this much, which was way more. And so you could get seen, but now you got to pay every month. So there's things like that come into play here. But as far as like just straight up, so that's how they handle their growth. They got so big, especially during 2020. Everybody started finding these places. And so they got so big and they had so many products, and they're like, we can't possibly display all of this when, only it's the 80-20 principle. 20% of those listings were making 80% of the revenue. And it's probably closer to 90-10, for them. So they had to figure out how to handle that increased number of products, So that's kind of something that you need to be aware of when you're going into these different, very, very saturated spaces. I mean, think about it. You get mailbox money versus having to deal with customers and having to find a vendor and having to do, which has the higher barrier to entry. Well, royalty base is going to be pretty dang easy. And so, I mean, comparatively speaking, and if you can get a system to like upload and stuff, well, I think a lot of people are going to be trying to do that. So those are the websites that are going to get saturated first. Then you moved into the seller of record part. Then you move into the brands, And so, as far as the other thing I want to say about scalability, is that most of the royalty-based, and I mentioned this earlier, most of the royalty-based platforms don't have the ability to upload with like a spreadsheet. So it's really hard to do it in bulk. You got to do one by one by one by one. And it gets very monotonous. And some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about because you're doing it. You're doing it on Etsy. You're doing it with a seller record platform. And that's even harder because now you got to do the mock-ups too. At least on Amazon, you just upload your product.
They do it for you.
And it just, it's all done for you, Same with Redbubble, So you just select the products you want it to be on and it kind of creates them. But you don't have as much creativity, you don't have as much, you can't stand out as much. It has to be your design that's really the home run, which it should be anyway, but you get the idea. The issue is that those have to be done one at a time. Whereas like the Walmarts and the Amazons and the Shopifys, you can do spreadsheets. So you can really put a lot of products up there really, really fast. Your bottleneck is probably going to end up being your mock-ups. So, but if you can get a system for that, which we're going to be talking about in the Print on Demand Foundation's challenge, if you can get something for that, then I really do feel like you can scale much quicker on the seller of record platforms than you can on the royalty-based platforms.
Fantastic. Last one on the list, everyone's favorite. Legal and tax considerations. I feel like our numbers, we're going to look back and have 42 minutes and 15 seconds. It's just a sharp drop off. But no, listen, it's important. Here's the difference. So there's licensing agreements when it comes to royalty base. So it's a 1099K that you basically get at the end of the year for the money that you've earned on that platform. And you have to go and report that income. They're not going to take the taxes out. 1099 is kind of an independent contractor agreement. Whereas seller responsibility and liabilities and seller record for Print on Demand, you keep your own books. So you have to do all of it, which can I recommend a CPA? Because that's the part that makes me so thankful that I have a CPA, because it's just a lot more work in making sure that everything is reconciling correctly for you and your business. And again, the question we often ask at the end of the day is like, are you making money? And you need to know that. And keeping your books is the way that you're going to know what actually is happening in the inner workings of your company.
Yeah, I think for the tax part of it is, getting a 1099K at the end of the year, and then every month you get a payout, or every 2 weeks, or however they do that. I think it's every month with Amazon. I'm not sure what it is, Redbubble, but every single month has a documentation on how many things you sold, how many things were returned, and here's your base royalty. Versus if you're doing it yourself, you got to know how many things were returned, how many things you sold, if you're doing it yourself, you got to keep track of your inventory. There's just a lot more to it on the tax consideration side, because at the end of the year, if you're just doing a royalty base, you're just going to get this 1099K, and you're going to, send that along with your
W-2s.
Yeah, your W-2s if you have a regular job, but you're saying that, and then like a record, the breakdown of everything, and those are your books. Really, if you're just doing that, you can get away with that, and it can just be under your own name if you want. You don't really have to have a company if you don't want to. Versus, I definitely recommend if you're doing seller of record. I recommend it if you're doing royalty based, but having your own company, having your own business checking account. It's not required, but it makes it a little easier at tax time. But yeah, as far as like the legal, consideration, so those are the taxes, kind of at the end of the year stuff. But the legal considerations, you are entering into a licensing agreement with whatever platform, and not all licensing agreements are created equal. So you probably should do yourself a favor and look through that before you sign on the dotted line. And if you do really well, and you could potentially turn this into another licensing agreement, you could take from that and maybe make it more beneficial to you. If you're going to do that, I would hire a lawyer, so they can get you the best deal. But when you're doing this, as far as like being the seller of record, now all of a sudden you need to hold liability insurance because you're selling a physical product. You are a business selling a physical product. So now I don't think you have to do that until you hit, like, per the platforms, until you hit a certain mark. Like Etsy has a certain mark that you have, once you've sold this much, you have to carry liability insurance. Same with Amazon, same with Walmart, all those guys. And so once you hit those things, now you have to carry insurance, for this stuff. You are liable because you are the seller of record. It's not Walmart or Amazon or Etsy. It's actually you. So those are some things to consider when you're thinking about the differences between these two ways of selling.
So there you have it. Tax advice. Just kidding. Don't quote us. We're not CPAs.
Don't do it. We are not.
Yes.
Josiah.
You devil.
Yeah, I know. So, so basically, there's going to be pros and cons to everything, but really it's kind of like to Travis's point. If you can do both, you can be successful at that. You can have, a royalty-based platform that you're selling on and seller record, because we talk about maximizing your assets all the time. So you might as well, if you're able to apply to Amazon Merch on Demand and get that approval, then that makes sense. But there's going to be, it's kind of just what you're wanting to achieve here. If you want something that's going to be brand specific, you're going to be able to scale and control, a lot of the quality and the customer experience, and you're wanting to really develop something and curate carefully, a storefront, then seller of record is probably going to be the way you want to go. If you're someone that's just like, hey, I just want mailbox money. If I can make an extra $200, $300, $400 off of this thing, that's awesome. I've got another thing going on over here. So if that's what you're looking for, then seller or royalty base is going to be kind of your lane. But it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. Travis, anything else? I'm kind of just summarizing pros and cons of everything that we've kind of gone over already.
Yeah, I think, just like we said, it's going to take more time, at the end of the day, to do seller of record than it is to do royalty based, but they're both going to take time. There is no such thing as passive income. All income, all money is derived from work, period. So unless like grandma dies or something and leaves you a big chunk of change, or you hit the lottery, you're gonna work for this. So just know that you're probably going to put a little more into it with the seller of record side of things. But let me just caveat that and say the upside is higher with that way of going. I believe too, you can scale this thing to $1 million, which would be really hard to do that, with royalty based, because again, you just don't have the control that you have with seller of record based.
Yeah. So you have it, folks, the quick rundown, pros, cons of seller of record or royalty based platforms. Let us know your thoughts, what you have in mind for yourself. If you're doing both, is it working? If you're doing one and you decide to do that over the other one, let us know. We always like to interact with you guys as well. You can do that on social media, Facebook, Instagram. We are there for you. Also, if you want to keep in the know of everything that is happening here on the Print on Demand cast and be in the loop completely. printondemandcast.com/VIP is where you can go to sign up for the email once a week, one extra dad joke as well that will come out. We'll have stuff that sometimes is talked about on the show, maybe something we didn't talk about on the show, but we feel is important. So if you want to know all things Print on Demand cast, go to printondemandcast.com/VIP. And in exchange, you will get a design calendar, which is important because, I don't know, I feel like something is coming up important next month. October starts. Oh, yeah, Q4, that thing. So you're going to want to get on top of that as well and get things rolling. And this design calendar not only helps you chart and plan for things like Thanksgiving and Christmas, but all of the major holidays that are happening here in the United States that you can be sure to capitalize on with your designs in your stores. Travis, anything else that you want to mention before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. Let's take it home.
Nice. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. For Travis, I'm Josiah, and we'll see you right here on the Print on Demand cast.
See ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.
Hey there, Pod Pals. Are you a print-on-demand creator looking to stay ahead of the curve? You want to know exactly when to launch your designs for every key season and event? How about a chuckle with an extra dad joke to brighten your day? If you said yes to any of these, then it's time to join the Print on Demand Cast VIP list. As a VIP, you'll get our free annual design calendar, an amazing guide to help you time your creations perfectly throughout the year. And of course, we'll include a bonus dad joke each week as well. Signing up couldn't be easier. Just visit printondemandcast.com/VIP and enter your email. Don't let another day of potential pass you by. Become a part of the VIP list, grab your annual design calendar, and let's dive into a year of inspired creating together. We'll see you on the other side.